So how to make millions of gold from zero, nothing, in the war within. It's the thing I get asked to do most in the comments in the section below, sort of like a zero to golden cap challenge sort of thing. So I thought I would give it a go in the war within, and we'll see how it all plays out then. So obviously I'm starting from zero. This is actually harder than you think. Things come up that you would never expect to be issues. The second thing is I wanted to do this on global release of the War Within to make it just that little bit more challenging, and also so I'm starting where the majority of the player base is starting. I'm not getting that sort of head start that the early access is giving us. This obviously means I'm behind on the professions because by this point the majority of sort of all the rank 3 crafts have been unlocked, so there's no chance of any sort of first to markets or anything like that. At the start of the expansion I tell everybody to make gold in the same way. Herbalism, mining, you cannot go wrong if you do not have the experience with professions, and even if you do have the experience with the professions, it's really good gold per hour at the start of an expansion. Herbalism and mining on its own, set up correctly and with a bit of dedication, and you can definitely make millions just from this. Now, what was a little bit awkward was I was going to go and start and do a bit of mining and herbalism to get some initial gold together. I went to the trainer and obviously I can't train. So we went and grabbed the artisan security bag, grabbed some ore out of it, chucked it on the auction house. Luckily you get a little bit of gold from the artisan security bag apparently. So that was enough to list it on the auction house, listed the ore on the auction house, sold that, and then we went and trained herbalism and mining and went about hitting some rocks, picking some flowers to get some gold together initially. Now, I actually found this to be one of the most annoying parts of the challenge. Sort of there's a lot of waiting about, so you can find things that make gold, but it's hard to sort of scale it up because you don't have the gold, and each time that you sell something you are waiting an hour from the auction house to get that gold back to do something else with it. Anyway, so like I said, after an hour, got that gold back, trained mining and herbalism, and for about 5 to 6 hours I did some sort of on and off farming. Now, I'm keeping this character independent from my others, but I am running my other crafters, my other auction house characters and stuff on the side. So when I say sort of 5 to 6 hours mining, it was sort of on and off. I did manage to get sort of just over 100k gold from it, but this was the point in the expansion where people were pulling sort of 40 to 50k gold an hour. So 100k is sort of like 100k-ish is pretty pitiful, even with my crappy farming. But that's basically how global release night went for me on this challenge. So just load of mining and herbalism, got some initial gold together, but I wasn't at this point quite sure where I was going to take it from here. So I had to think. I had a little bit of gold. It's Tuesday morning and I'm making pretty slow progress on the gathering. I needed something to sort of push things along a little bit. I did consider setting up some alt army stuff. Now, any sort of crafting alt army was never going to work because I just don't have the gold to get started. Did think about skinning alt armies because it doesn't really cost anything to set up, especially sort of the daily epic kill and things like that, because I didn't have the so the whole it was a bit awkward. I needed something. Ideally it needed to be something crafting so I can just be continuously doing it and continuously making gold. So I needed something a bit original, an idea that was going to make gold, but taking into account that I'm behind the other crafters, I don't have the capital that the other crafters have, and I also can't artisan security shuffle on this character because I don't have the gold to do it. So I did consider, I did also consider trying to target sort of a niche recipe that perhaps a lot of other people wouldn't go for. Something that's sold on the region-wide auction house, because that's also a possibility. So you just zoom in on something that very few other people are going for. It's not sort of like, it doesn't necessarily have to be Abyss or anything like that, just something that something just a bit out there. But I don't have the gold to buy a recipe. I don't have the reputations. I don't really have anything. So the only ones I could really go for would be drops. And that's sort of RNG. I could be farming for days and not get something. So probably not the best of idea in this particular situation. Then I did get an idea. So Inscription, the pursuit of knowledge tree, even being behind on a lot of stuff with the professions, I thought this could potentially work. You have the pursuit of knowledge tree. This increases your multi-craft and resourcefulness by 3 points for every point you put into it. And then every 5 points, you get another 15. So it's buckets and buckets of multi-craft and resourcefulness. And then you've also got the multi-craft tree as well, which is giving you, once again, buckets and buckets of multi-craft. So both of these are massively reducing your crafting costs per unit to get those crafting costs right down. There's also a third point in this pursuit of knowledge tree at the bottom, the resourcefulness tree. Once again, another one that you can put 30 points into. Lots of resourcefulness. Once again, bringing your crafting costs down. Now, I'm not adding acuity and shuffle here, so I can't fill this whole thing out, but I thought if I got the pursuit of knowledge and the multi-crafting, sort of those ones filled out, and that's only 60 knowledge points. That is very manageable to begin with. That's a huge amount of multi-craft, and multi-craft is a stat that really sort of brings down your crafting costs. So if I got those out, then we had potential here. The aim of the build was to be able to produce everything as cheap as possible. We do not care about quality at all. We're just trying to make things as cheap as possible, and just whatever the cheapest materials are that's selling on the auction house, we'll have that. And we'll just, out the other end, we're just taking the cheapest, making the cheapest rank 1 stuff possible from Inscription. So when you're making this sort of rank 1 stuff, you have to be careful what you're targeting, because you've got to remember players are leveling up their professions at the moment. So if it is something that is going to be produced as a byproduct of leveling up, then players, once they're finished with the leveling process, they're just going to dump it on the auction house, and they don't care if they make a loss because they've got the skill point they wanted. They just want to claw back some of the gold that they've spent. So you don't want to be producing something where players are just going to be willing to sell it at a loss, because it doesn't matter how cheaply you produce it, you're not going to be any cheaper than people that are willing to sell at a loss just to get that little bit of gold back from their leveling process. So that's one thing you have to take into consideration. You don't want to be doing something that is a byproduct of leveling. The second thing is you want something that there's actually demand for. So it's okay being able to mass produce stuff really cheaply, but if there's no demand for it, then it's absolutely pointless. No matter how cheap you produce it, then nobody's going to buy it. So what I'm particularly targeting is the Boundless Cipher. So this is a region from Inscription, and you use loads of these in the leveling process. So you use like 10, 11, 12, 13, I think, in the leveling process of Inscription. So that means there's not likely to be byproduct as part of the leveling process, because as they're leveling up, they're using more than they need to. So they're either having to create more than they need to, or even better for us selling the rank ones, they are buying them off the auction house. So that means during the leveling process, they're actually potentially buying off us, which is a bonus, rather than putting them into the market. So the second thing is these Boundless Ciphers are needed to craft the treaties that basically every profession is using every week to give them 1 knowledge point. That means that when people come to craft these, they just want the cheapest one possible, and that's exactly what we're going to give them. We're just going to be able to produce these at the cheapest possible rate. I was hoping that those people that actually were ahead of us, had all the artisan security, had all the profession tools, had all the knowledge points, much more than us, that they would be concentrating more on the rank 3 stuff, because there seems to be a bit of an obsession with trying to get to rank 3 rather than trying to make lower rank stuff as cheap as possible. But like I said, you have to pick your targets well. So that was the plan, to produce these as cheap as possible. And I thought it was probably about the best plan I could come up with. And I thought this was pretty much, about the best plan I could come up with, because it's really difficult when you're so limited on your capital and you're already so far behind, coming out of global release. So I leveled up Inscription a bit. I didn't actually need it that high, because all I needed to do was unlock the the recipes that I wanted to do. So I only needed to get something like 35, 40 skill or something like that to unlock the boundless ciphers. And then on top of that, I needed some profession tools. So by the time I'd leveled it up a little bit and I'd got my profession tools, then obviously I'd already spent a chunk of that 100k gold already. Now, we didn't have that much gold left. But what we did have was huge profit margins. So you can see here, we're crafting inks at like 300 gold each profit. And we're crafting ciphers at like 700 gold each profit plus. So we're nearly doubling our gold every time we sell one of these. So that, it's insane, almost doubling your gold. And this is a profession that, like, a very basic, extremely simple setup that we've done that we've hardly put any effort into whatsoever. The actual really annoying part here was exactly what I was saying earlier. So I can double my gold quite easily, and I can sell these as fast as I put them on the auction house. But then I craft everything up, sell it, and then I'm waiting an hour for the auction house gold to come through before I can double my gold again. Now, I have to say, at this point, I was very, very tempted to abandon the challenge completely. And that was simply because I knew that I could turn this character into an absolutely monster gold per hour. So you think if I'm near enough doubling my gold on this, what would happen if I did an artisan acuity shuffle on it, got its rare profession tools, got the extra knowledge, and and also gave it so it could be constantly crafting. I mean, this would easily be 500k gold profit an hour, possibly up to 1 million gold an hour at this point in the expansion. So I seriously considered just walking away from the challenge and just absolutely cashing in at this point, because it would have been an absolute beast, really setting this up well. But I didn't. I stuck with it, and it's really frustrating because, like, to begin with, I'm getting like 25k profit an hour, and then going to the auction house and taking some gold out, and then 40, 50k profit an hour. But it did start to compound. It did start to really scale up as we went through the day on Tuesday. So it was just a case, that was basically the process on Tuesday then. So that's the first day of crafting. So craft everything on the auction house, all sold very, very quickly, take the gold back, craft a little bit more than last time. And each time we were scaling it up. And got to the point that on Tuesday evening, we was up to nearly 800k gold, which was fantastic. And I thought, oh God, we're going to hit 1, 2 million, maybe even 3 million gold if we keep this on going like late through the night. And then the auction house went down. And the auction house was then down for about 2 days. So I'm sat here, I have this amazing gold making, amazing return. I'm sat with this sort of 800k gold ready to go, ready to sort of like nearly double every hour. And the auction house is down for 2 days. So fast forward to Thursday night then, the auction house sort of comes back. It's semi-working, stupidly laggy, really difficult to buy anything, really difficult to list everything. So I do make a little bit of progress. I do get some sales, but it's really difficult to buy materials to craft. It's really difficult to list and sell. And I imagine other people having the same issues, which is why sales are not as good as they were sort of on Tuesday. We make a little bit of progress on Thursday, but not really. So we go to bed. We sort of hope things are going to be a little bit better on Friday with the auction house, seeing as Blizzard keep posting that it's sort of going to be fixed. So yeah, let's hope things get better on Friday. So Friday morning, I get back to it, and the auction house, I get on, and the auction house is working perfectly for me. No problems whatsoever. And things just get insane. So we're back to selling absolutely crazy rates. Profit margins, still amazing. It doesn't take long for things to, absolutely scale up to ridiculous levels. So a few days ago, we're buying stacks of herbs sort of in the hundreds. Now we're buying sort of thousands, tens of thousands at a time for our crafting. Sales are going crazy. 1 million, 1.2 million, 1.4 million golden sales an hour. It just keeps going up and up and up as we're scaling things up and up and up. And through Friday, it just goes absolutely crazy. Like, I just barely can keep up with the crafting and the sales. It's just like the turnaround is just insane. And at this point, I don't know how much gold I've got because everything's happening so quick. So when you're sort of crafting like crazy, so you've got all this stock that you're buying, you've got all this stuff on the auction house, you've got all these auctions waiting to come through, you've got the gold on you, you don't really know where you stand. But at this point, you don't really care. Just keep doing what you're doing. Don't worry about how much gold you've got. You can count that later on. So that's what I do. Just push, 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 push. And the whole thing just feels absolutely unstoppable at this point. Then we hit 1.6 million gold an hour. And it's like, oh, this is fantastic. We're going to get to 2 million gold an hour if we keep this up. 1.6, and we feel like nothing can stop us. And then the auction house goes down again. And it doesn't come back up. So, yeah, that's pretty much where we ended up on Friday. We hit 1.6 million gold an hour in sales from a character that we started from zero just a few days ago. And the auction house has just been very, very annoying. But obviously, we're happy with progress still. We're going really, really well. On the plus side, we had almost everything converted to sort of liquid gold. So we had a few boundless ciphers left over. We had some pigments left over. But basically, everything we'd got had been converted to gold. So when we woke up Saturday morning, I could see we had about 6.2 million gold. So that had been quite a good Friday. And we knew at this point, all we need to do was just keep doing what we're doing to earn gold. So there were points in this challenge where I could have actually gone off and done things, got more knowledge points and things like that. But I didn't, because it's just like, just keep doing. If it's earning a lot of gold, just keep doing it. Yes, you get more knowledge points, you'll get more gold in the long term, but you can worry about that later. This is making loads of gold at the moment. Just keep doing what you're doing. Just keep pushing it. On Saturday, auction house was still dodgy, but it worked well enough. Got the sales. So I don't know exactly when we hit gold cap on Saturday, because like I said, things tend to be sort of, you tend to have things all over the place. You tend to have stock, sales, gold all over the place. But at some point Saturday afternoon, we definitely hit gold cap. 0 to gold cap, 5 days starting from 0. That crafter has gone on to probably be my most profitable crafter in the War Within expansion. He started at global release at 0. Didn't get a first to market. Didn't add to an acuity shuffle initially, at least as part of the challenge he didn't. And he was producing stuff, just rank ones, so cheaply, and the profit margins were crazy. So many people are obsessed with producing rank 3 stuff, and I just don't get it. In this case, I'm making rank 1s, making loads and loads of gold. If you guys have come by the stream, you've seen my alchemist making rank 2s, making loads and loads of gold. You don't need to produce rank 3 stuff to make loads and loads of gold. So this guy started at global release, started with 0 capital, and all I did differently was I just picked my target well. And managed to dominate a market. Well, not dominate, I did really well in the market very quickly from 0. Now, once this challenge was over, I super pimped out this guy, because obviously he was making so much gold. So then we did add an acuity shuffle. We did get all the knowledge books, all the profession gear, and he was even more of a beast then. And if you guys, like I said, if you guys have been on the stream, you've seen this guy just making loads and loads of gold. He's just continuously crafting, because he's got sort of all the stuff that reduces crafting costs. It's not just boundless ciphers, it's the inks and the pigments. Everything he produces is super, super cheap. And that's why he's got profit margins on everything he crafts. Overall then, so you guys said what would happen if a billionaire starts from 0. So if a billionaire starts from 0, he gets to gold cap in 5 days. So that's what happens. And on 2 of those days, the auction house was down. Now, was this a particularly fair challenge? So at the start of an expansion, there are much more market opportunities than you would normally have through an expansion. So I may revisit this and redo something similar to this at a later date when the markets are basically in a crap place, and see what we can do from there. Because obviously it'll be much more challenging doing this sort of in 3, 4, 6 months time when you know, profit margins on everything is 0. So we might look at that potentially. Or if you guys can think of any other challenges to do, then if you put that in the comments below, and if there's something I like, I might consider doing that as well. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you take some of this in, because like I said, this wasn't some pimped out sort of race to world first, region first crafter. This wasn't some sort of super smart, getting sort of raid recipes before raid releases, sort of making millions. This was just like a guy starting from zero at the start of the expansion, and all he did was do something that others weren't doing. And that's how you make your gold. Just do something that others aren't doing, and you'll do well. Thanks, guys, and we'll see you next time.